What's up, people? How you doing? All right, so I'm coming live again to you. This is Clark Bradley, Debt to Abundance. I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, and it is election day, so I hope that you were able to stop out and vote today. Like I said on my last video, I don't really care who you vote for, just do it. It's a privilege that we all have as Americans, and it's a shame if you didn't. So I would encourage you. You've got a little bit more time if you're here on the Eastern time zone, or you got more time, of course, if you're west of me here in Michigan. But take advantage of your privilege as an American and cast your vote for whoever you like. But do it either way. So, anyways, I've got a little bit I wanted to come at you with today regarding what I'm going to call one of my just quick hits, and it's a question that I'm addressing here that I've heard plenty of times for some of you who I've talked to regarding taking some extra money in savings, and should you take that and apply it to debt. Okay, so let's give an example, right? So the question is, should you apply your savings money to your debt, right? So let's pretend that in this scenario you've got $15,000 in debt across whatever, student loans and credit cards, let's say, okay? And then you've got $8,000 sitting in savings somewhere, right? And so what you'd have to look at, of course, is, you've got the savings account and it's $8,000. It's probably making you 0.5% or 1% a year if you're lucky, probably not even that. But let's just use 1% for simple numbers, okay? So you're making $80 a year on that money, right? Okay, wonderful. Not really that wonderful, but it's something, right? Okay, and then the alternative is, or the other bucket that you have is $15,000 in debt. And if it's student loans or a car loan, it might be a little bit lower. It's probably in the mid to high single digits in terms of interest rate, right? If it's credit cards, it's probably single to high teens or mid to high 20s in terms of interest rate on credit cards, right? Unsecured debt, right? Meaning it's not attached to an asset like a car or a house. Or in the case of student loans, they're pretty favorable as well because they're the government ones are more advantageous. So, anyways, what you consider is, okay, if it's money sitting, from a pure number standpoint, the financial standpoint, you look at, okay, I've got $8,000 in debt, or $8,000 in cash I could put towards some of this debt, and from a purely number standpoint, I'm going to take a 1%, an asset that's performing at 1%, and pay off a debt that's performing at, let's say, or costing me, let's say, 10% or 8%. Okay, so there's at least a 7% spread there, right? And let's say half your debt is on student loans. You take that $8,000, you take a chunk of that and put it towards the student loans. Well, let's say a chunk of that student loan means that you can pay off some of it, and it results in a $200 savings every month. I'm guessing. I have no idea. But just say it's $200, okay, for my example. So is the peace of mind or the comfort with $8,000 in cash worth not having $200 in extra monthly payments and not having an extra, let's say, $7,000 in debt that you would have otherwise had? Because what I'm suggesting is, let's say you have $8,000 in debt and $8,000 in savings. My general recommendation would be to take some of that, yes, and pay off your debt. What dollar amount you start with to pay it off from that chunk of savings is kind of up to you. My recommendation would be you leave 2% of your income in cash. Basically meaning that, okay, if you make $60,000 a year, you're going to leave $1,200 in cash in savings and take the remaining $6,800 and put it towards your debt. And from there, you would take that $6,800, and in my eyes, you apply it to the debt that has the smallest balance, and then you work up from there, because it's going to give you those quick wins, and it's going to move the needle the quickest. So hopefully, out of that $15,000, you've got a debt that is $6,800 or less. You can clean at least one of those right off the top, and wipe that off of your list. Okay, and that would be great. I've got a debt crusher worksheet that is on my website. If you go and you take my five stages of money quiz, I've got that there. Just a simple way to organize your debt and figure out what the best method would be for you, whether it's the debt snowball, which is paying it off from smallest to largest balance, or the debt avalanche, which is paying it off from highest to lowest interest rate. Doesn't matter so much as long as you're attacking it with purpose and with focus, right? So from there, you've taken all of your cash except for 2%. Okay, you've taken $6,800. You apply it to one or more of your debts, depending on how much you have within that 15 grand. Then whatever payment you have remaining, or that was remaining, right? Let's say it is that $200 that is now cleared up. That goes towards the next debt on the list. Okay, and you're continuing to build it up and continuing to apply that money every month, the 200 plus whatever you can scrape together at the end of each month, and put it towards the next debt until you're out of debt completely, and then you can go back and rebuild your savings account. So the next thought would be, okay, do you want to put 3 months of savings together, 6 months of savings together, or longer? It depends on your income. It depends on the type of income you receive, whether it's seasonal or if you're on furlough every so often, or if you're out here in Michigan, if you're a line worker at one of the auto companies and your plant shuts down every so often, you have inconsistent income, you might want to hold a little bit more. Or if you are in the type of industry that it's very consistent with your pay, you might have 3 months and be comfortable with that. Maybe you're a 2-income household and it's pretty stable, and either of you, if you lost a job, could find it pretty quick. 3 months is probably good, right? And you might just go up from there depending on your situation, depending on what you want to see and a certain level of comfort with how much cash you want to have on hand. But 3 months, I would say, is the minimum. One, for covering unexpected emergencies, and two, for covering unexpected job loss. And then you could argue, going up from there depending on your circumstance. Okay. But in particular, whether you want to figure out how much to look at in terms of paying debt off, comparing the interest rates is kind of cut and dry. I mean, you're not going to make anywhere near that amount in a savings account as you would by the debt you could otherwise pay off, right? 1% in a savings account, and that's being generous in today's market, versus 5%, 10%, 20, 25% on any kind of debt that you're going to have. That's not even close, right? It's to your advantage to pay off the debt. One, for the interest that you're not going to be charged, and two, for the payment amount that is going to be lowered and the monthly cash flow that's going to be freed up by you paying off that debt, right? Number two is, what's the opportunity cost of that money in the account? What could it otherwise be doing, right? So if it's just sitting there, not really doing a whole lot, what could it otherwise be doing? If it's money earmarked for something, that's different. If it's a wedding or a home purchase or a car purchase or something else that would otherwise prevent you or allow you to stay out of debt or allow you to not go further into debt, that's okay. If it's $8,000 and 5 of it is set aside for a, I don't know, we have a 22-year-old furnace, 23-year-old furnace, so it's coming very soon, right? And so we've got some cash that we're building up for that exact reason, even though we still are in debt pay down mode, right? We're at the tail end of it, but still, I know that's coming. So it's part of our home sinking fund, because we know that's sooner than later that's going to happen. So that way we don't have to go into more debt when we have to buy the new furnace, because we'll likely do the furnace and the hot water tank all at once, right? And so rather than go into $5,000 in more debt, we've got money that we're setting aside each month for that exact reason, okay? So something like that, what's the opportunity cost of that money? But if you've got some larger transactions that are already earmarked that you know are coming, that's different, okay? So again, you would look at what's the monthly payment that's freed up from that pay down, and then that monthly payment freed up immediately is applied to that existing debt, whatever's left on it, or the next debt on the list, and you continue that snowball, right? Or you continue that avalanche, so to speak, whatever method you choose, okay? And then from there, if you know that you've got some other transactions coming up, or you know that you've got some other things that otherwise would take precedence, that's something that you also factor in, right? So should you spend all your savings to pay off debt? I want to say yes, but there's layers to it. More times than not, 90% of the time, yes, you pay it off with everything but 2% of your income, right? So if you're at 50 grand a year, it's $1,000. 60 grand, $1,200, and so on. You can tweak it from there a little bit, but I wouldn't keep much more than that because it's a matter of getting that money working harder for you than just sitting in an account earning a 0.5% or 0.6%, whatever the going rate is right now, anyways, right? So that's what I do in your shoes, right? And that's the advice that I give to anybody is, okay, am I in your shoes? What am I doing, right? And then that's the advice, and you can certainly take it or leave it, okay? Well, okay, so that was one of my quick hits for today. Check out my website, debttoabundance.com, DEBTTOABUN dance.com. My course is coming out January 4th, 21. I'm excited to see you there. I've got some goodies and some free stuff on my site. My 5 stages of money quiz to find out where you're at in the course of the your journey with money, and some freebies and stuff that I'll send to your email. And you can see your results and what stage you're at and all that good stuff as of now, and then action steps to progress to the next stage. And so that's kind of what my course is going to be themed on, is starting from that stage 1 and moving to that stage 5 achiever. So anyways, thank you for hanging out with me. Happy election day. If you didn't vote, get to the polls, do your thing, and have an amazing evening. Other than that, I'll catch you soon. Ciao.